Today, you're going to get to see two Gen Zers react to Gen Zers reacting to The Chosen. So let's get to it. Hey everybody, my name's David Tate.
And my name's Brian.
And this is Now Let's Be Honest. It has been a while since the two of us together have sat down and done some stuff related to The Chosen.
Yeah.
But recently they released a documentary called Unfiltered, Gen Z Reacts to The Chosen. And so I thought that you and I would sit down and we would actually begin to react to this documentary.
Yeah.
We're actually going to be breaking this down into multiple different segments because the documentary is a little bit longer than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
It's like an hour and 20 minutes long altogether, and so I think we're actually going to break this down into 4 different parts.
Yeah.
They are watching all of season 1, I believe. I have not seen this, and you have not seen this,
either.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're kind of going into this totally blind. I have no idea what to expect. And so I think what we're going to do, I believe it's broken down into just like 8 episodes of segments, and so we're going to watch the first 2 episodes with them today. And then we'll watch the next 2 and the next 2 and the next 2. And so I think we're going to break this down into 4 different parts. And we'll just see how this goes. You excited?
I am.
Yeah. You have no idea what to expect with any of this, though, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, this will genuinely be like a first time reaction.
Yes. And it'll be same. I think I have a little bit more of an idea just because I had to go grab the clip and everything. But even then, I don't know. But I've heard a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah. The only thing I've seen is like they did like a preview of it before. Kind
Yes.
of like a trailer almost
Yeah.
for the documentary. I saw that. But
Okay.
other than that, I haven't seen anything
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this will be interesting. We also both fall into the Gen Z category.
That is true.
Which is kind of fun. I barely made it. I looked it up, and I've always thought of myself as a millennial.
Yeah.
Because I believe that's what I used to be categorized as. But
they
according to
changed
they always change it. It's all flexible. Like depending on who you ask, it's different.
Yeah.
But according to Pew Research, which they're pretty like foundational when it comes to all these different statistical stuff. According to Pew Research, the last people who make it into the millennial category are those born in 1996.
Oh.
I was born in 1997, and so I am the
Barely.
definition of a Gen Z person, I guess,
Yeah.
because that's right where it starts. And
Yeah,
so
you started.
I fall into that category, which I don't know how to feel about that because I kind of liked being a millennial, and
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of arbitrary, really. But yeah, so this is Gen Zers reacting to Gen Zers watching The Chosen.
That is true.
Let's get started with it and
Yeah.
see how this goes. Some topics in this documentary may be mature for younger children. Parents, consider watching first. Watch out, Brian. Watch an actual episode
I know,
of the
yeah.
show.
I know.
I have a weird feeling that it might be Grey's Anatomy.
I don't actually know your name.
I'm Jesus.
Well, I did not expect that. And there's a baptismal pool behind the curtain for any converts.
I just wish she didn't use religion to hurt so many people.
Maybe I'll die and go to hell. Maybe they're right.
She literally almost jumped off a cliff, and that was like my position.
I've never seen Jesus seem so cool.
That conversation was so radical.
Deep.
That scene right there gave me chills down my spine.
This will be interesting.
I didn't know that they were going in blind.
Yeah, I didn't either. I knew
Yeah.
that they were going to be grabbing people, but I thought they were telling them ahead of time like
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah.
And I just want to clarify, I also have not seen the whole live stream where they
Oh, yeah, me
talked
neither.
about this and stuff. I literally just went into that live stream and grabbed the documentary, and I wanted to go into this as blindly as well.
Yeah.
And so this really is like a reaction within a reaction within a reaction, because they went in blind to watching The Chosen. We're going in blind to watching
the
this.
documentary, yeah.
And so it'll be interesting. And I don't even know what type of commentary we're going to be providing.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to be a theological thing, a cultural thing. We're just going to kind of roll with it.
Gotta start the day with a water chug.
Hello, my name is Benjamin Nowak.
My name is Emma Russell.
Josephine.
I'm Jordan. Adrian Jackson Gilbert.
Audrey. Imani.
Chris. I often go by Stevie. I've begun the packing.
I am from Jakarta, Indonesia.
There it is. We're ready for today.
I'm originally from Wisconsin.
A village called Cassopolis.
I'm originally from Taiwan
In Ohio.
San Francisco,
I'm
California.
from Jersey and Georgia. But I currently live in
I live
Brooklyn,
in
New York.
I just moved there 3 weeks ago, actually.
I'm in the streets of New York.
My sister just dropped me off at the airport
On our way to Utah.
I have no clue where I'm going. I'm a little nervous.
We've basically been asked to meet a group of strangers.
Binge a series.
Don't really know what to expect.
We don't know what the TV show is.
We are going to want to know our thoughts on the series and
Just focusing on Gen Z. It's all been kind of secretive.
It's kind of fun.
My biggest anxiety is that I'm gonna get there and this whole thing's gonna
I'd say I wonder how they got in contact with all those people.
Yeah.
'Cause it's so vague.
Yeah.
To where it's not like you'd be able to like put out a like a poll or something to where it'd be like, oh yeah, who wants to participate in like binging The Chosen?
Yeah.
It's like super vague to where like you have to find these people and they're from all different countries. They live in all different places and they have to be Gen Z. Like it's
Yeah.
very specific but very vague at the same time.
Yeah, it also honestly sounds kind of sketchy. Like, you really do kind of...
Yeah.
I wonder if it was like a casting call type thing.
Maybe.
It might have been like a casting call where like they just like put out like, hey, we need people who react well to things but are from any different walk of life and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's interesting.
Went skydiving for the first time on a whim about a week ago. Didn't want to leave this earth whenever I do and not jump out of a plane.
Where are you from, man?
I'm from Massachusetts. Massachusetts, out here in Utah. It's actually my first time on a plane and everything. So
Really?
I swear, when we were lifting off, I felt like I came out of my seat a little bit. You know?
I was actually raised on a farm, adopted with my little brother and my little sister. So it's a blessing right there to be raised with them and really get to know them my entire life. And we're still very close now.
I gotta leave the cult thing for later. I have 6 siblings.
I have daily dance parties in my room.
I just love people. I love communicating. Love talking to people and just kind of getting to know their stories. That's a little bit about me.
Finally. Oh my God.
Ooh, set the mood.
Set the mood.
I think we are going to binge Ted Lasso.
Wait, Ted Lasso. Wait, didn't they say there were going to be 10?
I don't remember them saying a number.
I thought they said 10 earlier, like 10 Gen Zers, but it looks like there was only 9 in the group.
Oh.
But I don't know. Okay, sorry.
So today,
I kind of have a feeling that it might be some anime.
I gotta stop guessing VeggieTales.
I have a weird feeling that it might be Grey's Anatomy.
I know that it has a lot of impact on a lot of people all over the world.
The Paris Hilton cooking show.
Like I said, you know, I did grow up in a cult, but VeggieTales was like a staple of my childhood. And honestly, like I don't know if I really think it's VeggieTales. I just thought it would be really funny if it was. I would sing along with silly songs with Larry.
Something in the genre of drama.
A drama, I hope.
It's probably a drama.
That's what I think it is.
That's my way home.
I was one way, and now I am completely different. And the thing that happened in between was him.
And so it's time. Let's go.
I did not expect that.
You knew it?
I had a feeling
religious.
this would be that.
Really?
Do you know what the name of it?
It's Jesus, isn't it?
Jesus the musical. Everybody's been talking about
It's a musical?
I didn't pick that.
Me too.
Yeah, I think I've seen the trailer.
That's not what I expected.
I haven't seen the show, but
So what are y'all's first thoughts?
I've never seen Jesus seem so cool.
He looks like a stud.
Yeah. That's cute.
You need to close your eyes for a couple scenes. Don't take your shirt off, Jesus.
that one shot where it was just like Jesus and the boys just walking. The
squad.
Just the squad. Just pull.
So I guess like, this is supposed like this is the reaction like after the whole season, and then they're gonna go back and watch like episode by episode.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out like how much they'd watched. And,
Yeah,
okay,
they're
but
doing
they're
some
referencing something
stuff.
from the last episode
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Okay.
Hold up.
My religion has kind of gone down as I get older.
For sure.
You know, like my belief is still there, but I don't go to church as much as I used to. I was born into a Catholic church, like very religious. And so I think this will be
really interesting.
I feel like I'm more spiritual than religious. I feel like I had a really, Ben and I were talking about this, just a traumatic experience with the church. And so I'm like, I hope this is, I mean, it seems cool, but I feel like very wary about entering into that domain again.
It seems joyful, though. It seems joyful, you know, but it could get dark.
I mean, the man had a brutal death, so you know it's gonna get dark.
With all the different like portrayals and like different like teachings and stuff of like like Christianity and religion and like different like versions of Jesus, I guess, that I've just like seen throughout my life. I'm just curious to like see how this one is.
Your perspective is going to be very interesting. Like very, very, very interesting.
And there's a baptismal pool behind the curtain for any converts.
So, have I watched Christian content? No.
I think I'm always a little wary of Christian media.
I'd say the majority of like Christian faith-based stuff tends to be cheesy.
And it seems like they don't put a lot of effort.
It's very white.
It's been more preachy, force-feeding them a religion.
From what I've seen, it's like, oh, well, this needs to affirm what I already believe. I'm not looking for something that is challenging.
I didn't want to watch that content because me growing up, I was an atheist.
If I see or come across a Christian movie, I'll just turn it off because I don't want to be like spoon-fed propaganda, to be honest, and I just can't relate to it at all.
Okay, I want to pause it real quick. Okay, so this is kind of fun for me because this ties into a lot of what I'm writing for one of my papers. I'm literally in this class right now for my seminary where I'm in, it's like a change and resistance in Christian leadership class, very hyper-specific class. And one of the papers I had to write was about just some sort of major change going on in the church or in Christian entertainment or Christian like businesses or something like that. And so I'm writing about The Chosen. Just because it's something I'm familiar with, because I literally have this YouTube channel and just stuff like that. And so I'm writing about The Chosen, and one thing that I've been pointing out is that as a result of The Chosen's success, I have seen this growth in Christian entertainment where people are wanting to actually make higher quality content. Because we've seen like just different stuff. I mean, Angel Studios is funding like helping crowdfund all these other projects like the David Project, the Wing Feather Saga Project, all that stuff. Where people are just trying to make higher quality stuff. And so I like that they're kind of pointing that out, just because that's something that I also agree with. Obviously, a lot of these people come from different backgrounds than I do. I come from a conservative Christian background, and I have been a conservative Christian my entire life. But I do agree with, especially, what's this guy's name? Do you remember what his name is?
Benjamin.
Benjamin, okay. Benjamin. I do agree with him that oftentimes Christian entertainment is pretty cheesy.
It is,
and that's one thing that, and then some of the other things that they've said is like, a lot of the times it seems like they're just trying to reinforce what you already believe. That's my big criticism of things like the God's Not Dead movies and stuff. Because you watch them and you're like, okay, who is this for? Because you're not making these for atheists, because you're portraying them in the most negative light possible. And the arguments that you're making on behalf of God are honestly pretty weak. And like I agree with the arguments, but they're not going to convince anybody, and they portray Christians as like these goody two-shoes, perfect people where things go so good in your life that whenever you face like the slightest possibility of resistance or inconvenience, like your faith is shattered. And to me, that just like makes me mad. And then you have like, I just don't know who they're trying to win over. And so I like that they're kind of pointing this stuff out. There is some stuff in there, like the one girl, she said that she's more spiritual than religious. I don't know. I never really know what people mean when they say that.
Me neither.
For her, I'm assuming she does not consider herself a Christian, so it doesn't really bother me as much. But whenever somebody is a Christian and they use terms like that, it really does bother me. Just because I don't like the whole like, oh, Christianity's a relationship, not a religion thing. I think that's kind of a very naive way of. I get what people are trying to say. I don't really like that type of language. Because like if you look up the Google definition of like religion, Christianity falls into that. Like, we are a religion. But I get what people are trying to say when they say it. I just typically avoid that language. But whenever she said that, you know, we kind of have to just go with it, because every one of these Gen Zers is coming from a different walk in life, and so you're still just trying to figure out what exactly they mean by that. I want to know what cult this guy came out of.
I know.
Like, I hope they say it at some point, because
he's the same one that talked about VeggieTales, right?
Yeah, because he said that he came from a cult, but then he says that, like, he watched VeggieTales. I'm like, okay, so it was a Christian cult. But also, like, I'm wondering, like, was it a cult?
Was it actually a cult, or was it something you like perceived as a cult?
Yeah, because nowadays I hear a lot of people calling stuff cults, and I'm like, that's not a cult. That's just like an extra legalistic version of Christianity.
Right.
Like, all because some people get Christianity a little bit wrong doesn't inherently make them a cult. And so I'll be interested, like there are some things like definitely a cult.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see what he says about it, and I don't know if they're going to release it. Like I don't know if they're going to say it at all.
Right. Or if you're just going to kind of hang there.
But I'll be interested because like they keep mentioning it, and I'm like, I want to know.
Yeah.
Like I think
building it up.
This Benjamin guy is the guy that I'm tracking with the most so far because like there's a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah.
What do you think so far?
I agree with the whole talking about kind of Christian entertainment. I definitely think that ever since The Chosen has kind of aired, people are willing to step out and try something different. It was kind of in this like same pattern of the same old stuff. And then when The Chosen came out, they did something different, and other people are like, oh, I guess we can do that. And so I think The Chosen did a good job at like taking creative liberties while also like staying true to the Bible and you know, not crossing any lines. And I think other people were probably like a little scared to do that, but now people see that it can be done correctly. And so it's really cool. Yeah.
Well, I think one issue with a lot of Christian entertainment is that they just don't let the Bible speak for itself. Like they feel the need to force feed the message.
Well,
whereas
and it's such like the Bible is such a compelling story by itself. And I think a lot of people like feel the need to like try and change the story or like try to do other things whenever like the stories that are in there are already really cool. Like you don't really have to do much to them.
Yeah, well the issue is that a lot of Christians feel like they have to force their own agenda into this stuff, and I'm like, no, just tell the story. Like my favorite movies, even before The Chosen, they're mainly the biblical historical fiction ones. I mean, not necessarily entirely fiction, right? But they're based on biblical stories, right? So you've got Passion of the Christ, you've got Risen, which is about the resurrection of Christ. You've got Paul, Apostle of Christ, which is about the Apostle Paul. Those are some of my favorite biblical Christian movies, and that's because they're just based on the story of the Bible, whereas a lot of Christian entertainment really does like try to force feed you this stuff, and they're like, hey, here's the message we believe, you need to believe it too. Whereas a lot of the times, just tell a good story, and if you believe these things to be true, it'll come across, right? If you're telling the biblical story, let the Bible speak for itself. If you're telling a story about a Christian, you don't have to force the audience to believe that. Just tell the story and demonstrate why this person believes it, and you'll be good to go. And so I think that's the issue is like Christians oftentimes, they just use entertainment as another vehicle to preach a sermon. And I'm like, no, let entertainment be entertainment. Like, let it be art. Let it be beautiful. Let it be amazing. Let it be really good. And if it is really good, people will be drawn to God through it, right?
We see that through The Chosen.
Yeah, because The Chosen, they've got a message, right? I mean, obviously, Dallas Jenkins and the creators who are behind this whole thing, they want people to come to Christ, right? It's not like that they're just creating this just because they're like, oh, that's a good story. Of course they have a message, but they're letting the message speak for itself, and they're not watering it down. They're changing things up. They're doing some controversial stuff that a lot of people, including myself, might not always agree with, but they're doing it because they recognize that the Bible can stand on its own, and you can change things up here and there with the fictional embellishments in order to reach a modern day audience. And so I'll be interested to see how they react to this kind of like episode by episode. But I really want to see what this Benjamin guy thinks.
I know, yeah.
But okay, let's get back to it.
Cool.
I don't like have anything against it. Like I think Jesus Christ Superstar is like a pretty good like Broadway musical. I was born in Charleston, South Carolina, a month after my parents joined a new church. And that ended up being my cult.
We were poor. We lived in Newark, New Jersey, in the hood.
When I was 13, I saw my dad pass away right in the living room of our house.
Why can't you sleep?
I'm scared.
I experienced a lot of stress and anxiety about not fitting in.
What do we do when we are scared?
We say the words, "Fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine."
You are mine. That's right.
Demons.
inside her. I go to church maybe once a year. I'm not deeply into the faith. I'm not deeply educated.
My name is Quintus. I'm the praetor of Capernaum.
And I am.
You're the great Nicodemus.
I was raised Catholic, and I still am. I actually have a necklace of the Sacred Heart.
I miss it. Honestly, in a lot of conversations with friends, I'll mention random Bible stories, or I'll be like, I'm being such a Martha right now. I just want to be more of a Mary. And people will be like, what?
You help me. I will help the Pharisees continue to thrive.
Me growing up, I didn't really believe in God like that. I really didn't want to believe in God like that because I felt like, my skin color alone was already different.
Not you, but it's me that don't want to be seen with you, tax man.
Christian content and Christian people in general, not all of them, but some of them are very, very religious and earrings like this, like a guy wearing earrings like this, would a guy be wearing earrings like this? I don't know. I like them.
Why are our Jewish brethren take...
That's just one thing I want to mention real quick. His criticism there, I understand where people are coming from, I don't know, I kind of understand it. He was criticizing people in a church setting for not liking people wearing those earrings. And I really don't care either way if you have earrings like that.
Yeah.
But I think that this is something that I wish that non-religious people would understand. Typically, the reason why religious people do not like stuff is not because they just arbitrarily decide not to like something. So, to be fair, sometimes they do. Sometimes it's just legalism, and it's just being like, I don't like people wearing that, and it's more just a traditional thing. But more often than not, or maybe not more often than not, they think that the reason they don't like that is because it's something that God is telling them not to like. Yeah. Right? Like, typically, they think they can defend it with the Bible, and sometimes you might have to get them to think otherwise, but typically, the foundation of it is because they believe that God doesn't want somebody wearing that stuff, right? And like I said, I personally do not care if you have an earring. I don't think that really matters that much. Do I want an earring? Not really, but I don't really care. But this is something that I wish that non-religious people would understand more, because, okay, we're not just being critical for the sake of being critical. We're not just being judgmental because we just feel like being judgmental. It's because we believe that there's a God of the universe who has certain standards and he wants people to live by those standards, right? And so to me, I understand him saying that he doesn't want to be religious because of that stuff, but I think that kind of breaks my heart a little bit because I'm like, okay, but you've got to realize that, let's say hypothetically speaking, let's say that God didn't want you to have that earring. Is that a reason to reject God? No, because God is so much bigger and better and more important than an earring. And I really can't blame this guy for that, because I think that Christians just haven't really maybe portrayed God in as positive a light as we ought to portray him. And so it's really not his fault. But that's just something that it kind of does bother me, that I wish that non-religious people would understand. It's not just being judgmental for the sake of being judgmental. Typically, people are being judgmental because they believe that that's what God's telling them to do. And I'm not justifying it, right? Because I'm not saying we should go around wagging fingers. I personally don't like when Christians do that either, because I don't think we should expect non-Christians to adhere to a Christian ethic, right? I mean, why would we expect that? We serve different masters. Why would we expect a non-Christian to do that? But that is something that I wish that non-religious people would understand as well, right? I wish that they would understand that typically, even if the Christian or the religious person is in the wrong, they justify it by thinking that there is this bigger ultimate being who is telling them that that is the right thing, right? So that's why, right? And that's not enough reason to reject God. Oh, God wants me to do something I don't want to do. I'm going to reject him. Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that God tells me not to do that I personally would want to do, and I accept that because I realize that God deserves to be worshipped. And so, hypothetically, if I did want an earring and God said not to, then I would say, okay, that's fine. Then I won't have an earring, right? It's about denying yourself. And so that's really, it's partially on this guy, but it's also partially on Christians, because we haven't really taught that. Because if you look at most Christians, they're not denying themselves anything. At least in America in the West, we're not denying ourselves anything.
Yeah.
But that is one of the crucial aspects to Christianity. You have to deny yourself before you can even follow Jesus. And so if he asks you to give up an earring, you give up the earring. And all because you want to hold on to something is no reason to reject becoming a Christian.
Yeah.
But once again, I can't really blame this guy. I think that Christians have done a poor job of demonstrating that. But at the same time, it is something I just wish that non-religious people would understand.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, just on the side of Christians, like, we've even talked about it before. There's, like, if you go and look at statistics, like, the number of people that, like, claim to be Christians, but how small amount of people are, like, actually truly Christians. But if you call yourself a Christian and you walk around and people see how you act and what you do and things that you say, that portrays a certain image to other people that aren't. And so there's definitely, I think, a lot of fault on, like, both sides of people that are Christian and non-Christian.
Well, and oftentimes as Christians, we will be hyper judgmental about the stuff that we don't struggle with. But then we won't mention anything about the things that we do struggle with.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so we criticize other people for stuff that it's easy for us to do. Right. Oh, I don't have a desire for an earring, so I'm going to criticize that person. I'm going to make them seem like God hates them because they have one. Meanwhile, there's these other secret sins that I'm hiding. I won't mention those, right? And so we are very hypocritical like that. And a lot of times as Christians, we act a little bit like Pharisees.
Yeah.
But that is just something like, the whole point of this, like the whole documentary, is just seeing what Gen Z people think about The Chosen, what they think about Christianity.
Right.
And just stuff like that. It's like, I get where he's coming from because I've heard people say stuff like that. Like and another one of the other girls was saying, like, she's like experienced a lot of hurt in the church and stuff like that. I get that, but all because you experience church hurt doesn't mean that you leave God, right? And that's one of those things where it's like, okay, it's not a matter about, we don't just believe in God because it's what we want, and we don't just believe in God because of what we get out of it. We believe in God because he is true, right? It's not a matter of personal desires or feelings. It's a matter of truth. And if the God of the Bible is the true God, and if he is the realest real thing of all real things, and if Jesus did come down and die, even if you totally disagree with his message, you should worship him.
Right.
Because he's real. He's true. He is the one in charge. And so even if you reject him, guess what? You're rejecting truth.
Yeah.
And I just wish that people would kind of understand that, but I don't see us clarifying that enough.
I would say also, whenever, like, people make those statements, it's also, you're judging God based off of other people's actions. Because, like, if someone experienced, like, hurt by the church, that isn't God that's directly inflicting that on you. That's people who are sinful that have made it seem like God is that way. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and to be fair, that is something that, like, coming to that realization requires a certain level of spiritual maturity.
Right.
Where you have to recognize, okay, it's not God who's in the wrong, it's these people.
Yeah.
And so you have to allow the person to get to that point.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things that I wish that people just kind of naturally understood.
Right.
Like, all because I failed does not mean God's a failure.
Yeah.
And we typically kind of understand that, but I mean, that's just our culture nowadays. I mean, if your kid is failing a class, it's not his fault, it's the teacher's fault. Right. And so, like, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, so I don't know, but it's interesting seeing the reactions to stuff, because it's stuff we hear all the time. I just wish that we could fix it, because I do feel like as a church, we are largely at fault. It doesn't justify their reactions, because really they should understand, okay, like, all because this one person or these multiple people or this entire church was a jerk to me, that doesn't invalidate Christ. But they don't get that, and I think that we're not doing a good enough job stepping up to fix that problem.
Yeah.
So.
Their votes to see on Shabbat.
Some of those early Nicodemus scenes, I just, like, was getting crisp flashbacks to cult moments.
I'm here about a Hebrew woman in a red quarter.
I wonder if they're intentionally make them speak, like, very vague.
I have no idea, but it's driving me nuts.
Because him specifically, he's using, like, the same wording of using cult over and over again. Right. But if you look at all of their responses, like how it was a few minutes ago when they're kind of, like, telling their story, all of them are very vague about what they say. It's just, like, kind of like trigger words almost that are, you know, like, negative connotation that just kind of shows, like, where their background's from, but they don't elaborate on it.
Yeah.
So, like, all of them are very vague, so you get a general idea, but you don't know exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah, like, I don't know if they're saving it up for this big reveal moment.
Yeah, I know, if they're building it up, or if it's just gonna stay there.
It's honestly driving me a little bit nuts, because we're only 12 minutes into this thing, and he's mentioned it, like, 30,000 times, And I'm like, just tell me what it was because I want to know how I'm supposed to be interpreting you. Like, did you, like, were you actually in a cult? Because, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Or were you in something that you thought was a cult? In which case, like, because this is going to frame how you, like, view his response and stuff, right? Yeah. It's like, I want to know.
Around 10 years old, my mom started going to church really often. I just remember the pastor always saying, like, if you come up and get prayed for, you'll get a house, you'll get a new car. And to me, it just felt so manipulative, and I just could not get jiggy with it.
Seriously, I can only take maybe 2. 1. One more punch. He says he's had it!
Your account is there for delinquent by 40 days. As collateral, you've listed a fishing vessel.
What my brother didn't mention was our arrangement with Quintus. Don't speak, just walk. They don't get the tax because we don't report any Shabbat catches. So I tell them, if he took me straight to Quintus, I'd let them know who caught more in one night than the guy they're arresting catches in a week.
You offer to turn at fishermen?
No, not fishermen, merchants.
I come from Indonesia. Hello, nama saya Audrey, which is like, hello, my name is Audrey. Coming to the States for the first time, I was like, wow, this is like incredibly new. And it was really difficult.
Spawn of Beelzebub, better than Sheol.
We are not afraid of you. You have no power here, teacher.
And when I was 15, my biological dad was murdered. Life kept trying to just throw me down like this well.
By the time I was in 3rd or 4th grade, I was having pretty severe mental health issues. I was having suicidal ideation and depression and anxiety. I didn't want to go to school most days.
Did you say suicidal ideation?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I'm not quite sure. I was trying to figure
like suicidal thoughts?
I guess so. I'm assuming.
Idealized? Like
idealization? Yeah.
Idealization? Like... Yeah.
IDEAL?
Okay, sorry. I needed clarification. Idolation? Okay.
I saw my dad take his last breath as he looked at me. And that kind of really changed things in my life. I've struggled a lot with mental health issues, teetering on the brink of thinking, what is the point of life? Why am I even still here? Do I even want to still be here?
I said leave me. That's not for you. Don't touch me. Leave me alone.
Mary. Mary of Magdalene.
How do you know my name?
Thus says the Lord who created you. I have called you by name. You are mine.
All right. Wow. That was intense.
I like the Game of Thrones medieval vibe.
Yeah.
I think that makes it interesting.
The way Jesus entered, unreal.
I mean,
like, just...
Was he gonna do less?
That was... And they wrapped it around to her father.
Yeah. I really like how it felt relevant, like the mental health issues that she was going through, like, or what could be seen as mental health issues today, and just
so many people giving up on her, and that's why it really struck home for her, because someone cared enough to say like, I see you, you know, instead of like the problems that she was going through.
I deal with mental health issues being somebody who's bipolar, which back in the day, they used to think bipolar people were possessed. But the thing is, I thought it was really interesting when he comes in, he puts his hands on her head as if he's healing her brain.
See, I'm liking the side that they're showing that, you know, the rich side of things and the poor side of things. And you can really, like, you know, really feel for both sides and see where they're coming from in that sense. Like,
I feel bad for the tax man.
The tax man, he's nervous.
I don't feel
He
bad
don't
for
want to
him.
go nowhere.
I mean, signed up for that job. He could quit any day.
Yeah. He don't want to go nowhere. But then
I like that too. Like, you see like both sides there. Like, some of them are like, oh, poor guy. And she's like, hey, he could quit any point.
Yeah.
Like, he does not have to be doing this.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, I'm not justifying him at all. Like, that's interesting, because typically people do just side with Matthew in it. And so that's kind of fun. Like, I like that she was like, he is not getting away with that.
Saw the kind of style where, you know, he stepped in the dung and then he threw him away real quick. Like, he didn't care. Like, he, you know, and that's kind of crazy to me.
I think it was Saul, the guy the fisherman. On one hand, I'm like, yeah, you're kind of a snitch. Like, you sold out your own people just to get by. But then on the other hand, like, you're going to lose everything.
Nobody ever talks about how desperate you can get when you're trying to save yourself or someone you care about.
When you're backed into a corner.
Exactly.
Okay, this is kind of funny, but just the way that they're interacting with one another reminds me a lot of like so many Bible study things I've gone to before, where people are just like I think the reason it's funny is because a lot of the times we gather together for Bible studies and the conversations kind of go like this.
Yeah.
And typically we think, oh man, like that was such a great discussion. But the thing is, like, obviously you don't have to be a Christian to have a deep discussion like that.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
like you can talk about the Bible. Yeah. So there's got to be something a little bit different. I just think it's funny because they're having a very nuanced discussion, and I kind of like it. Like, I like the type of stuff that they're bringing up. It's just kind of entertaining how, as Christians, we always like leave like Bible study being like, oh man, like I feel so good about myself.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, like anybody can have a conversation like that.
Yeah.
But I do like their nuanced perspectives
Yeah.
on that. This is totally random. I wonder, like, if they like had to go through wardrobe or anything. Like, did the people give them the clothing to wear or what? Because they're all wearing such like fancy clothing.
They were wearing that, like, some of them were wearing the stuff that they're wearing like at the airport though.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I guess so.
maybe they could have told them, like, here's a general idea of what you should wear.
It looks completely different. These were 200, 300 foot tall pine trees. They look like way up there. We had horses in here, we had horses in there.
Growing up, we didn't have a lot of the things that a lot of people in this town had. We had, you know, just the bare minimum. I was a big schemer back then, and I schemed a lot. So things that I just felt like I didn't have or wasn't able to have, and I didn't see myself having, so let's steal it instead. I used to steal a lot of phones, you know, and then take them and jailbreak it and then resell it to somebody else. Headphones, jewelry, you know, I was taking just random stuff, people's clothes, sweatshirts.
I'm an emotional person. I take things to heart. I really relate to what I'm seeing on a screen. And so I think that I tend to wear my heart in my sleeve, and I will take on whatever's happening in the show, and that can be upsetting, maybe.
Matthew, another unhappy citizen expressing his disapproval?
That'd be fine.
My favorite kind of scene dynamic in the show is between Matthew and his little Roman bodyguard.
Disgusting. Go home.
I have a job to do.
I thought it was incredibly endearing to watch these like opposites really come together and find something that they enjoy about each other and almost a protection between each other. I found it very heartwarming.
How can you not have a relationship with your own father?
He says he has no son. Cool. That seemed like a short
I loved that episode.
I was surprised. That's why I wasn't expecting it to end.
Yeah, me neither.
Am I the only person who almost teared up in that scene with Mary and Nicodemus?
Oh my gosh, get me started.
Over the holidays in the US on my own, I get really jealous of everybody getting to go back to their families and, you know, have this big, nice, fancy dinner. And I'm always, some family friend usually takes me in, but it does kind of feel like I'm like nomadic a little. Everybody else had this like scrappy, put together family. Seeing that like what was held so preciously and dearly was like the pieced together Thanksgiving was really cool to me. Yeah, and it was a great thematic episode. It was so intense to be dropped into a group where everyone had such a complex relationship with God and with Christianity. I was really defensive. I was really closed off and skeptical. I was going through a lot at the time with my family, and there were just parts of myself that I feel like I couldn't let go of. I had to be a little defensive to like protect a part of myself. I was sitting there really questioning everything everybody was saying. I felt okay with that because I really felt like it was okay to like save a part of myself from myself and not have to give everything to the people there and to the cameras. It's so hard in the process of finding the truth to be able to share where you are on that journey with anyone, because honestly, sometimes it's embarrassing.
All right, we're gonna stop right there for this video. So what'd you think?
I thought it was pretty cool. It wasn't really what I expected it to be.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's filmed a little bit different than I expected going in. I kind of thought it was going to be more, I thought it would be like, kind of like episode 1 reaction, episode 2 reaction, but I guess maybe the reactions are different than I expected.
Yeah, I expected there might be, well, at the beginning they said that they'd like be completely out of it, but I thought maybe there would be like some prompted questions or like discussion questions where like they would ask something and then like y'all discuss it on your own. Yeah. You're not answering to me, you discuss it on your own and we're just filming you.
Well, and I guess I wasn't necessarily seeing it that way just because it is called react. Like I thought it was going to be a little bit more unprompted. I guess I'm just surprised by the content of the stuff that they're talking about because I think this is something that I've noticed just in general. I think people watch stuff differently than I do. Whenever people watch shows, they're more like looking for something that they can relate to in it.
Or connect, yeah.
Whereas like, I think you should relate to all the characters and stuff in a show or else the people aren't doing a very good job writing it.
Right.
But like, I thought it was interesting how like the last girl, she was really talking about, or really a lot of them were just reflecting on, oh man, that reminds me of hanging out with my family at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Whereas I can honestly say I've never watched episode 2 of The Chosen and thought about like Sabbath and be like, oh yeah, that reminds me of like hanging out with family.
Me neither.
I usually just watch it and I'm like, oh yeah, they're celebrating the Sabbath.
Yeah.
But I've noticed a lot of times whenever people talk about that, like even in like the Chosen fan page on Facebook and stuff, people are always like talking about like, ooh, what character do you relate to the most and what storyline do you relate to? And I never watch shows like that.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy the story arc and I step into the character's perspective and I like join them on their story. But I think I very rarely am, like, comparing it to my own story.
Right, yeah.
I think the only time that's come close to that was in, like, Season 2, Episode 3, whenever Thomas was like, yeah, I lost my father. And I was like, oh, yeah, me too. Mm-hmm. Like, same. But that was about as far as it went. I was like, oh, yeah, I've also lost my dad. But I think that was also because I was watching that, and that was, like, just, like, less than a year after I'd lost my father. Because I was, like... So that was like pretty fresh.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's interesting because there were multiple times throughout this where they would react to stuff. I'm like, oh, that's what stood out to you there.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm surprised. I was expecting, especially given their different religious backgrounds, that I was thinking that it'd be more overtly like biblical talk.
Right. Yeah.
But that could be coming later on because to be fair, this is still early on.
Just
they're still getting comfortable around one another. They're just a few episodes in. There's 6 episodes they still got to watch.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that it'll come more in, because also Jesus hasn't been at the forefront of this so far. First 2 episodes, he's kind of in the back. Mm-hmm. And so maybe with the next video, there might be some more stuff whenever they start actually going to episode 3, which is all about Jesus.
Right.
But yeah, do you have any final comments you kind of want to just throw out there before we kind of wrap up this video?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. Well, this is interesting.
We're
probably
see where the rest of it goes.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely different than I expected. But I'm kind of liking it, and so we'll be back next time to watch episodes 3 and 4 with them, and we'll just be doing these 2 episodes at a time, just to go cover 4 different videos, just various different types of commentary. Maybe the commentary will be different every single time, just depending on the content.
Yeah.
Different. It's interesting. It's kind of fun to watch other people reacting to the show, because the only time I've ever watched the show was with people in a Bible study context, who were all fellow Christians, and they're like, oh yeah, that's that one story. Yeah. Oh, that's that one story. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you so much for watching this video with us, and for watching this documentary. Just be sure to comment below, let us know what you thought about it, and were you as surprised by us at just kind of how this was made and everything? I kind of almost want to see a behind the scenes documentary of the documentary.
A documentary of the documentary.
Yeah, but interesting. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, do all that stuff, and gonna think about this for a bit. All right, my name's David.
And my name's Brian.
And this is Now Let's Be Honest. Be sure to keep a smile on your face and don't let anybody steal your joy. Bye.
Bye.
You read a verse, you sing a hymn, the money's in the plate. Sundays you mark out for him, but even then you show up late. You bought the shirt, you wear the cross, but sin throughout the week. For 30 shekels and a noose, you kiss him on the cheek.